What is up, everybody? Piscean back for another video. In this video, we, my friends, are not stopping until you learn astrology. This is, I think, number 13. Yeah, and I just started this series like 2 days ago. So, yeah, we're pumping out some content because I know I'm going to be busy doing my other stuff in regards to my certificate. So, right now, let's talk about these compiled field reports and case studies in regards to advanced astrology research. This is a longitudinal observational portfolio from 2018 through 2026 by an independent astrological investigator that is anonymous, and the methodology is retrospective and prospective chart analysis with daily journal logging. Before we get started, I'd appreciate if you subscribe, like, and comment, and share if you dare and care. With peace and love, I appreciate you. Alright, now let's get started with this video. So our abstract here reads that this document presents 5 extended case studies drawn from 8 years of continuous astrological observation. Each case includes a natal chart summary, a chronological journal log of significant events, and a post-event field report analyzing predictive techniques, transits, secondary progressions, solar returns, zodiacal releasing, and primary directions where applicable. The research aims to document the empirical correspondence, or lack thereof, between celestial configurations and terrestrial events. Subjects gave informed consent. Identifying details are anonymized. Alright. Here's our methodology overview. So we go over chart calculation, placidus houses, tropical zodiac, mean node, all charts cast with exact birth time, rectified where noted. Logging protocol, daily entries, approximately 50 to 200 words for 6 to 24 months per subject, and we're focusing on mood, events, health, relationships, and work. Alright? Analysis techniques, transits, 0 degrees orb applying, secondary progressions, 1 degrees orb, solar return, house placement and aspects, lunar returns, zodiacal releasing from lot of fortune, Hellenistic, primary directions for verified birth times, as well as blinding. Logs written before predictive analysis where possible, retrospective analysis then compared to logs. Alright? So, we have our case study 1, which is the writer's block in Pluto score. But before we get started, I do want to just make sure I can recall how many case studies we're going to go over. I think it's 6. Actually, it's 5. And then I'll show you guys more. Alright, so start with our first one here. So our subject's profile reads pseudonym Marian, birth date is March 12th, 1985, born 1432 EST, New York, New York. With a natal chart snapshot, Sun 21 degrees Pisces in the 12th house, Moon 8 degrees Aquarius in the 11th house, Ascendant 15 degrees Cancer, Pluto 4 degrees Scorpio in the 5th house, squaring the Sun, 2 degrees applying orb at birth, exact in progression. So the profession is novelist. Observation period January 2023 through December 2024. We have our journal log excerpts. Pluto has been hovering over my Sun for months, but today I feel nothing, just tired. No desire to write, staring at my manuscript for 3 hours, produce 1 sentence. My agent is asking for chapters. Pluto exactly square natal Sun by transit, 21 degrees Pisces to 4 degrees Scorpio, 1 degrees orb. Woke up at 3 a.m. with a nightmare about being buried alive. Then a strange clarity. My protagonist needs to die at the end. I cried for an hour, then wrote 3,000 words. It felt like surgery. Pluto retrograde now, moving back to 3 degrees Scorpio. The creative surge is gone, back to staring. But I notice I'm reading psychology books about trauma. My editor says the new pages are too dark. Pluto direct again back to 4 degrees Scorpio. Today I deleted 200 pages. Not writer's block, writer's destruction. I feel possessed. Pluto moves to 5 degrees Scorpio, separating. The obsession lifted. I started a completely new novel. It's lighter. The old one, buried. I understand now. Pluto square Sun didn't block me. It forced me to kill the wrong book. Technique tested. Pluto transit square natal Sun. Prediction, retrospective, transformation of creative identity, death, rebirth of a major project, possible career crises. We observed Marion deleted an entire manuscript, the death, and began a new genre, rebirth. The nightmare, 3 a.m., Pluto hour suggests a psychological unearthing of buried material. The square's exactitude, 1 degrees orb, correlated with the peak creative destruction in March. Verdict, strong correspondence, however, the subject's free will, choice to delete, was active. Pluto did not cause the deletion, but coincided with the internal readiness. Alright? In a journal log excerpt from the researcher's own notes, case number 001 suggests that outer planet transits to inner planets are best described as pressure toward transformation. The subject's previous coping mechanism, waiting out the transit, failed. Only action, deleting, released the pressure. Clinical note, no antidepressant use reported. Alright, our second case study, solar return and sudden partnership. Our pseudonym is Elena. Her subject profile, birth date July 22nd, 1990, 8:15 BST, London, UK. Sun, 29 degrees Cancer in the 10th house. Moon, 8 degrees Leo in the 11th house. Ascendant, 22 degrees Libra. Venus, 2 degrees Virgo, 12th house. Trining Jupiter, 4 degrees Capricorn in the 4th house. Profession, architect. Observation period, September 2024 through September 2025, solar year. We're going to go over the solar return chart, or SR, for age 35, September 22nd, 2024, in London. Alright? So, the SR descendant is 18 degrees Sagittarius. SR Sun is in the 7th house of partnerships at 29 degrees Virgo, conjunct the SR descendant, 22 degrees Virgo. SR Venus is in the 5th house of romance and creativity at 8 degrees Scorpio, trining SR Jupiter in the 1st house. SR Mars is in the 8th house, shared resources, sex, at 14 degrees Cancer, and it's square the natal Pluto, which is 4 degrees Libra. Alright. Excuse me. Soda. Alright. Met someone at a gallery opening. He's a structural engineer. We talked for 4 hours about tensile fabrics. His name is Alex. Felt like I've known him forever. SR Sun in 7th already showing. We're officially together. He moved in last week. Insane, I know, but my flat feels right. Yeah, but my flat feels right. Alright. SR Venus trine Jupiter. I read that means lucky romance. Let's see. Huge fight. He wants to merge finances for a project. I'm terrified. SR Mars square my natal Pluto. This is exactly the power struggle about shared resources that his chart warned about. We broke up for 2 days, then reconciled, started couples therapy. The Mars-Pluto square is separating now. So Mars is at 29 degrees Cancer. I feel calmer. SR birthday. 1 year, we're still together, not married, but we signed a business partnership for a design firm. The SR Sun in 7th house delivered, just not the way I expected. Professional partnership, not marriage, and the Venus-Jupiter, we're happy. So, technique tested. Solar return, interpretation for the year. Prediction made in advance. Significant partnership event, SR Sun in 7th. Could be marriage, business, or a major client. Romance likely, Venus in 5th, trine Jupiter. Watch for power struggles over money. Mars in 8th, square natal Pluto. Observed, partnership formed, romantic and later business. Power struggle occurred exactly as Mars transited the SR 8th house and squared Pluto. No marriage, but the business partnership fulfilled the 7th house theme. High correspondence. SR Sun conjunct the descendant is remarkably literal. The Mars-Pluto square timing matched the fight in March. Mars at 14 degrees Cancer, square Pluto at 4 degrees Libra, 1 degrees orb. This case supports SR as a reliable annual forecasting tool. Alrighty. So case number 002 reinforces that SR houses often manifest as domain rather than event. Elena didn't marry, but her year was dominated by the other, 7th house, in a binding legal way. The Mars square Pluto was almost too exact. 3 days of screaming, then therapy. Astrology as marriage counselor? Alrighty. Case study number 003. We're going to talk about zodiacal releasing and job loss, Hellenistic technique. Alright. Subject profile, pseudonym is David. Birth date is November 2nd, 1978. 4:22 CST, Chicago, Illinois. We see Sun, 9 degrees Scorpio in the 3rd house. Moon, 22 degrees Sagittarius in the 4th house. Ascendant, 27 degrees Libra. Lot of fortune at 14 degrees Aquarius in the 4th house. Profession, IT manager. Observation period, 2020 through 2023, including COVID layoffs. So, ZR calculation from Lot of Fortune, or from LOF. Alright, so using Chris Brennan's implementation of the Hellenistic technique, we see our peak period, LBG, level 1, from LOF, 14 degrees Aquarius, release from Aquarius, 14 degrees to next fortune bound length, 2.5 years per sign. First major period, Aquarius, 14 degrees through 30 degrees equals 1.6 years, then Pisces, 2.5 years, Aries, 2.5 years, and so on. The key event window, October 2020 through April 2021, release in Aries, fortune bound. Aries equals 8th house from fortune. No, we need to calculate house position. Fortune in 4th house, so Aries falls in, well, this gets complex. We'll simplify it for the report. David's levels 2 subperiod from Spirit, calculated separately, indicated a loosing of the bond in March 2021. Let's see the excerpts here. So we see November 15th in 2020, company announced restructuring. My team might be cut. I'm terrified. Note, researcher sees fortune releasing in Aries. Aries equals sudden severance, Mars energy. March 10th in 2021, laid off exactly as predicted by the loosing of the bond date I calculated in January. Severance package is decent. I feel strangely free. May 22nd, 2021, started my own consulting business. Fortune in Aquarius, my 4th house of home office. Maybe this was meant to push me out of corporate. You see, in August, on the 30th, business is thriving. I would never have left otherwise. The layoff was a blessing. So the technique tested was ZR from LOF and LOS, Hellenistic. Prediction made February 2021 after log entry of November 15th, 2020. A major disruption in livelihood will occur in March 2021, specifically a termination of severance. This is not permanent damage, but a redirection towards self-employment. Observed layoff on March 10th, 2021. By late 2021, David had incorporated a consulting firm. Very strong correspondence is our verdict. The precision of the loosing of the bond, a specific day within a 2-week window, is impressive. However, the technique is so arcane that only a dedicated researcher would use it. For the layperson, transit Saturn square midheaven would have given a similar but less precise warning. All right. ZR is exhausting to compute manually, but when it works, it feels like clockwork. David's case shows that Hellenistic techniques are not just historical curiosities. They have predictive power, but the learning curve is vertical. I spent 3 days on the calculations for a 10-minute prediction. Alright, case study number 004, primary directions and parental death. So Sarah, born June 18th, 1970, 1952 PDT, Los Angeles, California. Sun, 27 degrees Gemini in the 8th house. Moon, 5 degrees Sagittarius in the 2nd house. Ascendant, 10 degrees Libra. Saturn, 16 degrees Taurus in the 7th house. That's the natal chart data. And the observation here is retrospective study after mother's death in 2015. Birth time rectified to within 2 minutes. Alright. Sun in Gemini. The sun's in the 8th house. Moon in Sagittarius and moon's in the 2nd house. And Libra rising. Alright, let's have ourselves do a primary directions calculation. Placidus, Regulus software. So we look at our direction. Directed ascendant is Saturn, natal. Arc from 10 degrees Libra to 16 degrees Taurus. This is not a simple zodiacal arc because primary directions move in right ascension. Computed arc is 14 degrees 22 RA. Timing is 14 degrees 22, equaling 14 years, 4 months, approximately using 1 degrees equals 1 year. Added to birth date, June 18th, 1970 gives October 1984, not matching mother's death, 2015, so that's an incorrect direction. We correct, direct. So directed Saturn, 16 degrees Taurus, to square directed midheaven. Saturn signifies the mother. Traditionally, Saturn equals mother in night births. Sarah was born at 7:52 p.m. night birth. Yes, Saturn equals mother in nocturnal charts. Alright. So arc, Saturn, 16 degrees Taurus to square midheaven. Natal midheaven, 7 degrees Cancer. Square requires 7 degrees Aries or 7 degrees Libra. The closest is 7 degrees Libra. Ascendant, that's a conjunction, not a square. Let's use directed moon, 5 degrees Sagittarius, to opposition directed Saturn, and this gets messy. So here's our simpler format. Professional astrologer computed a primary direction of Saturn to the opposition of the heart of fortune with an arc of 44 degrees 31.44.5 years after birth, equals December 2014, subtracting February 2015. We have a retrospective reconstructed from diary journal log. Mom has been in the hospital for 3 weeks, pneumonia, she's 78. I keep dreaming about clocks, ticking, stopping, the nurses say she's stable. She died at 3:17 a.m. I was holding her hand, the room felt cold and then warm. Strange, the moon was exactly full in Leo, her sun sign. Technique tested, primary directions, Placidus. Prediction, retrospective, the direction of Saturn, mother, to opposition of POF, physical well-being, time to 44.5 years, subtracting 3 months, indicating a loss of a maternal figure with physical decline. Observed death of mother on February 3rd, 2015, within the 3-month window. Verdict, excellent correspondence, but impractical for most astrologers due to the complexity. So the full moon in Leo, mother sun sign, at the time of death is a striking synchronicity that primary directions did not capture. This case suggests using multiple techniques, directions and transits and lunations, for critical events. Alright. Primary directions are the most tedious but also the most hauntingly accurate technique I've studied. However, they require a birth time accurate to the minute. Sarah's chart was rectified using 5 major life events. Without rectification, directions are useless. For most astrologers, progressions and transits are 80% as good, with 5% of the work. Alright, and our final case study we're going to go over in this portion is number 005. We're going to talk about the lunar return and monthly mood mapping. So the researcher, it's a self-study here. Plot twist. Born April 3rd, 1982, 11:45 EST, Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah. MA. So natal chart, Sun 13 degrees Aries in the 11th house, Moon 16 degrees Cancer in the 2nd house, Ascendant 4 degrees Leo. Observation period, 6 consecutive lunar returns, August 2025 through January 2026. So we look at simplified lunar return charts. So lunar return date is approximated and return moon position, as well as notable aspects, journal theme written before analysis. Alright, we have a few different things we'll go over. August 27th, 2025, 16 degrees Cancer, conjunct the natal moon, return moon trine natal sun, emotional calm, cooking a lot, called my mother. Alright, September 23rd, 2025, 16 degrees Cancer, again, second return in the same sign, return moon square natal Saturn in the 8th house, anxiety about debt, felt heavy, cried twice. October 21st, 2025, 5 degrees Leo, conjunct the ascendant, return moon opposite Pluto in the 10th house, power struggle at work, felt like everyone was testing me. November 17th, 2025, 24 degrees Leo, return moon trine Uranus in the 9th house, spontaneous trip, quit a volunteer commitment, felt free. December 15th, 2025, 15 degrees Virgo, return moon opposite Saturn in the 8th house, sick with flu, stayed in bed for 4 days, very isolated. In January 11th, 2026, 6 degrees Libra, return moon square Mars, 7th house, arguments with partner, broke a dish, accident, high stress. Alright. So we see these excerpts were written daily, then matched to returns. So this is the day before the October 21st return. He says, I can feel the shift. Tomorrow's lunar return has moon conjunct my ascendant. Last time this happened, March, I cut my hair and started a new project. Let's see. 2 days after the return, he says, exactly as predicted. My boss challenged my authority in a meeting. I stood my ground. The moon-Pluto opposition was brutal, but I didn't back down. My throat is sore from arguing. Woke up with chills, looked at the lunar return for tomorrow, moon opposite Saturn. Classic cold aspect, I'm not surprised. Saturn rules the bones and skin. I'll have body aches, sure enough. Alright, so you see here, technique tested is lunar return, or LR, as a monthly forecasting tool. Prediction made each month before the return. For October, power struggles. For December, illness or isolation. For September, emotional heaviness about money. Observed each LR's theme manifested within 2 days of the return date. The moon opposite Saturn LR, December 15th, coincided with influenza, a classic Saturnine element, restriction, cold, isolation. So our verdict is very high short-term predictive value. Lunar returns are underutilized because they require monthly chart calculation, but they are easier than primary directions and more specific than generic transits. So self-study introduces confirmation bias. However, the December illness was objectively verifiable, fever documented, and that's just the limitation here. After 6 months of lunar return tracking, I'm convinced that the LR is the best next step technique for intermediate astrologers. It's like a monthly horoscope that actually works. The moon's return to its natal position with aspects to the LR angles predicts emotional and physical states with uncanny accuracy. I will continue this protocol for another year. Alright, let's check out this appendix, which is just compiled statistical notes. So, for example, number 1, Pluto transit, square Sun, creative destruction, 9 through 7, easy to track. Number 2, solar return partnership formation, 8-8, annual, easy. 3, Zodiacal releasing, job loss timing, 9-2, very difficult. 4, primary directions, parental death, 9-1, needs rectification. And lunar returns, monthly mood, health, 8 through 6, moderate. And researchers' final journal entry. After 8 years, I conclude astrology works best when you use the simplest technique that fits the question. For what will this year bring, solar return? For what will this month feel like, lunar return? For when will a major life change occur, secondary progressions and transits? The advanced techniques, primary directions, ZR, are elegant and historically fascinating, but their extra precision rarely changes the advice you would give. The universe seems to speak in multiple languages simultaneously. You only need to be fluent in one or two. Alright, so I did say I was going to make a video on this, and just one of the videos in this series, I think it was just like 4 videos ago, or maybe even less, I was saying I wanted to make a video on Perron's, fixed stars, and geographic celestial mechanics. Alright? Essentially advanced astrological applications of stellar Purana Talanta, orbital frameworks, and topocentric influence. So I'll begin here with our abstract to help you understand a little bit about what this is going to be. And this treatise establishes a rigorous, geometrically grounded framework for understanding Purana Talanta, the simultaneous rising, culminating, setting, or anti-culminating of fixed stars with planets or angles in a natal chart. Unlike ecliptic-based conjunctions, Purans operate in the local horizon coordinate system, rendering the natives precise geographic coordinates, latitude, longitude, elevation, not merely decorative but computationally essential. We derive the mechanical laws of stellar influence through 3 interlocking chapters. The first is the nature of fixed stars as discrete radiators of pneumatic influence. The second is the geometric optics of Puran formation, including temporal orbs, minutes of arc, and right ascension versus altitude. And 3 is the topocentric correction for birthplace, city, state, country, and its effect on the perinatal horizon. And applications include rectification, mundane astrology, and the rediscovery of lost Hellenistic predictive techniques. So we have a few chapters in here we'll go over. I think there's 7, yeah. So I can actually go over these things with you guys in detail. Alright. The first chapter is on fixed stars, ontology, and radiative mechanics. So the fixed stars as celestial actors. Well, first of all, in both ancient and modern astrological practice, fixed stars are treated as distinct from planets. They do not wander through the zodiac but maintain nearly constant celestial coordinates, ignoring proper motion. Their influence is incremental and localized. A star modifies the planet or angle it touches, rather than generating independent events. Mythopoetic, each star's mythological or cultural valence, for example, algol equals Medusa's head equals decapitation or sudden severance, provides the interpretive key. Radiative, following Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos 1.4, stars emit influences through color, brightness, and temperature. Modern astrological research, for example, Bernadette Brady's book of fixed stars, reframes this as photonic pressure combined with magnetic field lines, a metaphorical but useful mechanical model. Alright, next. Stellar magnitude and orb sensitivity. A star's apparent magnitude determines the width of its effective orb in Puran techniques. So we see here, for magnitude examples, stars, Puran, orb, and RA minutes, influence, and strength. So, -1.5 to 0, Sirius, Canopus, Arcturus, Vega, right? Influence is very strong. But then we have stars from 0 to 1, such as Spica, Regulus, Aldebaran, and Aries, and these are strong. 1 to 2 is Algol, Polaris, Castor, Pollux, moderate. And 2 to 3 is Alpheratz, Denebula, Merak, weak. And we have 3, which is most others, adding, subtracting 1 minute, negligible. Alright? So our note here is that Purans do not use ecliptic longitude orbs. For example, 1 degrees along the zodiac, they use temporal orbs measured in minutes of right ascension, RA, or more precisely, in minutes of sidereal time. 1 minute RA equals 4 seconds of time. The ancient rule, a star is considered rising with a planet if the planet's RA is within the star's rising RA window, which varies with latitude, and we'll see that in chapter 3. Alright, this looks a little complicated here, but we're going to go over it with everybody. Fixed star catalog for Puran work. So essential stars for Purans with 2000.0 coordinates, magnitude, and traditional meaning. So there's quite a bit of stars here. Is it all the stars? No, but it's the main ones you'll hear about. Alright? I'll let you guys take a look at this because I need to use the bathroom anyway. So take a moment to do what you will. hopefully you guys were able to get a good look and understand a little bit so far. So, we have our star, Bayer RA, and a lot of math into this. So what I'll do is just go over the stars and their basic general description. Starting with Sirius, which is the Scorcher. Alright? It's the star of fame, heat, and danger from dogs. Alright? Canopus, the pilot, navigation, sea journeys, leadership. Arcturus, the guardian, protection, justice, agriculture. Vega is the harp, artistry, music, sudden fame. Capella is the she-goat, wealth, nurturing, and stubbornness. Rijal is the foot of Orion, technical skill, limb injury. Procyon is the lesser dog, sudden events, small pets. Betelgeuse is the armpit, martial success, explosion, loss of limbs. Aldebaran is the eye of the bull, eloquence, integrity, downfall of leaders. Spica is the ear of wheat, fertility, success, and artistry. Antares is the heart of the scorpion, obsession, danger, military honor. Regulus, jumped over Pollux. The twin, friendship, duality, and shared risk. Regulus is the little king, royalty, arrogance, violent reversal. In Algol is the demon's head, decapitation, loss of head, literal or figurative. Source is Hipparchus catalog reduced to J2000.0 traditional meaning synthesized from Ptolemy, Lilly, and Robson. So if you guys want to interpret that chart data, go ahead and screenshot it, take a look. Alright, so chapter 2, we're going to talk about Perron's geometric definition and computational mechanics. We're going to talk about the definition of a Perron, also known as a Perron-telon. Alright, these are the same thing. This is just a abbreviation. And I might make a video dedicated to the astrological abbreviations because there's quite a bit. Alright, so a Perron, plural Perrons, occurs when a fixed star and a planet or a sensitive point, ascendant, MC, lot of fortune, are simultaneously on one of the four horizon angles, rising, ascendant, culminating, MC, setting, descendant, or anti-culminating, IC. The word derives from the Greek to rise alongside. Critically, a Perron is not a conjunction in ecliptic longitude. Two bodies may be 30 degrees apart along the zodiac, yet rise together because of their declination and the observer's latitude. Conversely, a star exactly conjunct a planet at 0 degrees ecliptic longitude may never rise with it if the star's declination is extreme. Alright? Now we look at the four Perron types. So Perron rising, star and body rise simultaneously. Both have same hour angle, HA at rising. RA difference equals RA of the body's rising point. Alright. Perron culminating, star and body simultaneously on the midheaven, upper meridian. Both share the same sidereal time, LST, at culmination. Perron setting, star and body set together. Both have HA equals 180 degrees, rising condition mirrored. And Perron anti-culminating, star and body on the homunculi, lower meridian, LST differs by 12 hours from culmination case. Alright? So hopefully you guys are able to follow along with me and I'm not confusing anybody. That is not the goal of the channel, is to complicate complicate you. A lot of people just want to complicate you. And everything you stand for. But it's up to us to really defend ourselves and choose who we let in. But anyways, for practical astrological purposes, culminating Purans are the strongest. The star is at its highest, most visible power. Rising Purans are next. The star enters the world with the planet. Setting and anti-culminating Purans are often considered malefic or hidden. Alright? Alright, sorry about that noise, guys. So the algorithm for Puran calculation, topocentric. So what we're given here is observer's geographic latitude, positive north, right ascension of the star, and declination, right ascension of the planet, and declination, or the RA of the ascendant midheaven derived from the local sidereal time, LST. Alright? So our first step is to compute the rising hour angle, H_rise for a body, where H is the hour angle at rising, alright? West of meridian for culmination, H equals 0. Our second step is the RA of the rising body is RA_rise equals LST, subtracting H. If negative, we add 24H for culminating body RA_CULM equals LST. Step 3, two bodies A and B are in Puran rising if RA rise A equals RA rise B, quad text within an orb of PM delta RA. So this is where RA corresponds to the star's magnitude-based orb, chapter 1.2, converted to RA minutes using delta RA text minutes, equaling delta T text minutes sidereal times 15 times cos delta star. Alright? And for practical work, use dedicated software, such as Sirius or Astrology, Astrologue with Puran module, because manual calculation is prohibitive for more than a few stars. Orbs for Purans, temporal versus ecliptic. Alright? Alright. Now, unlike ecliptic conjunctions, orbs of 1 degree through 5 degrees, Purans use temporal orbs measured in minutes of sidereal time, a standard rule derived from Hellenistic practice. The maximum temporal orb, adding subtracting 12 minutes of RA, equaling 3 degrees of RA at the celestial equator, less at high declination. And our minimum useful orb is adding subtracting 2 minutes, equaling 0.5 degrees RA for very faint stars. So why is it temporal? Because a star rising with a planet is defined by the time they share the horizon, not by their zodiacal distance. Alright? Hopefully that can make sense for some of you guys. Two objects with identical RAs will rise together regardless of declination. So if their RAs differ by 5 minutes, they rise about 1 degree 15 apart in hour angle, still visually noticeable as a pair on the horizon. For example, Sirius, let's say RA 6 hours 45 minutes, and a planet at RA 6 hours 48 minutes, difference 3 minutes. Puran rising valid for Sirius, mag negative 1.5 orb, 12M if the planet were at RA 07 hours 00 minutes, difference 15 minutes, no Puran. Alright, so there is math involved in astrology. And I've made multiple videos about the math in astrology as well. Chapter 3 is geographic coordinates, the birthplace as a celestial filter. This is why latitude and longitude matter for Purans. The same planetary alignment, for example Mars at 15 degrees Aries, will produce different Perron relationships depending on the observer's latitude. And this is because the rising hour angle depends on our icon, where we need to see that formula in 2.3 again. It equals 0 degrees. Equator. A body with declination rises at h equals 90 degrees. 6 hours before meridian at icon equals 50 degrees, the same body may rise at h equals 60 degrees or 120 degrees, dramatically shifting which stars are above the horizon simultaneously. Circumpolar stars never rise or set at high latitudes. They cannot form rising setting Perrons for those observers, only culminating Perrons. Longitude determines the local sidereal time at birth, which sets which stars are culminating, MC versus rising, 2 births at the same latitude but different longitude. So for example, New York versus Chicago, same moment, will have different LST and therefore different culminating stars. Thus, the country, state, and city, i.e. precise coordinates, are not optional metadata. They are variables in the Perron equation. Let's look at a case here, the effect of 1 degree's latitude difference. So we take a native born at 40 degrees north in New York City versus 39 degrees north in Philadelphia. Same moment, January 1st, 2012, on the dot, UT. The sun at RA, 18 hours, 45 minutes, declination, negative 23 degrees. At 40 degrees north, it's a rising HA of the sun, cos H equals negative tan 40, which we do the math here, and what we get for our H turns into 69.1 degrees, and at 39 degrees north, we do our math, we figure out that H is 69.9 degrees, the difference of 0.8 degrees in HA, equaling 3.2 minutes of time, and that changes which stars RA aligns with the rising point. So a star with RA close to the borderline may be included in one Perron, but not the other. Alright? So for mundane astrology, city, country, the collective chart of a nation uses the capital's coordinates. The U.S.'s birth, July 4th, 1776, Philadelphia, has specific Perrons that differ from a chart cast for Washington, D.C., a source of debate among mundane astrologers. Alright? Anthropocentric correction for elevation here. Standard astrological coordinates assume sea level for cities at high elevation. Denver 1.6 km, Quito 2.85 km. The horizon is slightly lower, reducing the rising hour angle by an average of 0.5 degrees through 1.0 degrees for most bodies. The formula is simplified, where H equals elevation, R equals Earth's radius. For Denver, 0.07 degrees negligible for Perrons except when a star is within 2 minutes RA of exactness. For most purposes, elevation can be ignored. The exception, rectification to the minute of time, requires elevation correction. Alrighty. Chapter 4 is Mechanisms of Celestial Influence, a proposed model. We look at the pneumatic hypothesis, drawing from Ptolemy and Kindi, and Renaissance astrologer Girolamo Cardano. We posit that celestial bodies emit a pneuma, a subtle non-electromagnetic radiation that interacts with terrestrial matter through resonance with the pneuma mundi, world soul. For fixed stars, this pneuma is coherent and narrow beam, like a laser, not a floodlight. A star's influence is only felt when its pneuma strikes the native's horizon or meridian, i.e. when the star is angular. Modulated by the atmosphere, stars near the horizon, rising, setting, have their pneuma refracted and scattered, producing a weaker but more diffuse effect. Culminating stars have minimal atmospheric path length, strongest, purest influence. Resonant with planetary frequencies, a star's effect is dormant until a planet crosses the same angular boundary, Perron, at which point the star's pneuma couples with the planet's, producing a combined signature. Alright. Now, Perrons as phase-locking events. We can think of a planet as a tuning fork and a star as a second tuning fork. Alone, each vibrates. When both rise together, their vibrations synchronize, phase lock, producing a novel harmonic. The astrological interpretation is the product of the planet's nature and the star's mythology, not the sum. So for example, Mars, war, aggression, and Paran rising with Algol, decapitation, sudden loss of head, not Mars and Algol, but Mars multiplied by Algol. A violent, sudden, head-related event, for example, a motorcycle accident causing head trauma or a beheading in a war zone. Without the Paran, Mars alone would not specify head. Alright? The role of the natal horizon, the native celestial signature. So every birth location stamps the chart with a unique set of Paran and Tawanta, stars that rose, culminated, set, or anti-culminated at that exact moment and place. These stars are not visible in the standard 2D chart, which only shows ecliptic positions. They exist in the 3D celestial sphere and can only be recovered by recalculating the local horizon. Right? So our practical application here is a natal chart with no major ecliptic aspects to fixed stars may still have potent Parans. Many famous figures have no fixed star conjunctions but multiple Parans. For example, Winston Churchill, born November 30th, 1874, Blenheim Palace, has Ceres culminating Paran midheaven, the scorcher that gave him his fiery oratory that is invisible in a standard chart. Alright? So our applications for comprehensive understanding here. Natal rectification using Parans. If a birth time is uncertain, to add, subtract, and hour, Parans can narrow it down. Generate candidate charts every 4 minutes, 1 degree of midheaven motion, over the uncertain window. And for each candidate, compute rising, culminating, setting, and anti-culminating Parans for all first magnitude stars. Compare with known life events. A client who had a sudden, shocking betrayal at age 27 might have had a Paran of Algol with Venus, betrayal in love at birth, but only at a specific time. The candidate that places Algol on an angle with Venus is the likely rectified time. A client born 1945, 8:15, uncertain between 8 and 10. At age 19, she survived a car crash that killed her twin sister. The crash involved a decapitation, sister's head severed. Candidate chart at 9:12 gave Algol exactly rising, Paran rising with Mars in the 8th house. No other candidate had Algol angular. Birth time rectified to 9:12. Client confirmed mother's recollection. Alright. Our second application is mundane astrology of cities. So a nation's capital chart is cast for its coordinates. The Parans of its founding chart predict national crises. For example, the United States Sibley chart, the compute Parans. So Ceres culminating, fame, world power, accurate. Algol setting, hidden violence, assassinations, 4 presidents killed in office. And Aries rising, obsession with military honor, consistent with American gun culture. Compare with the chart cast for Washington, D.C. No Algol setting, different predictions. Historical events match the Philadelphia chart better, supporting the Sibley chart over D.C. Our third application is personal timing, transits to Parans. A transit of a planet to the exact RA of a Paran star, i.e. the planet's RA equals the star's RA, activating the Paran, can trigger the star's effect even if no natal Paran existed. For example, a native with no Algol Paran at birth may have a transit of Mars to Algol's RA, 3 hours, 8 minutes. During that 12-minute window in RA, any decision made is under Algol. Avoid surgery, contracts, or arguments. Maintain an ephemeris of RA positions for planets available in astronomical almanacs or software. When a planet's RA matches a star's RA within the star's orb, flag the date. This is more precise than ecliptic transits and often yields stronger events. Alright, and our fourth application here is horary Parans. For horary astrology, the moment the question is asked, compute the Parans of the ascendant, the star rising with the ascendant, within adding, subtracting 12 minutes. RA describes the hidden nature of the querent's issue. For example, horary about a lost pet, ascendant rising with Procyon, lesser dog. Yes, the pet will return. Without that Paran, the answer would be less clear. We have our worked example here. Complete Paran analysis for a native. So let's talk about Albert Einstein, even though he fucked his cousin and, it was weird like that. So he was born March 14th, 1879 at 11:30 a.m. LMT, Ulm, Germany. the Julian date. Alright, so what we do here is we compute the local sidereal time, or our LST, and we use the standard formula. So LST equals 100.46 degrees, and we add 0.985647 degrees, and we multiply, then we add, and we do more math, and our result is the LST being 2 hours 34 minutes simplified. The midheaven equals RA of LST equals 38.5 degrees equals 8 degrees Taurus. Ascendant calculated 23 degrees Leo. Alright? Step 2 is compute parons for angles. So our culminating stars, midheaven at 38.5 degrees RA. Closest first magnitude star, Aldebaran, RA 68 degrees. No, Aldebaran, RA 68 degrees is far. So actually, RA 38.5 degrees is near the Hyades cluster. No first mag. The nearest bright star is Capella, RA 79 degrees through 40 degrees away, too far. So no culminating paron. Rising stars, ascendant, RA. Need RA of ascendant. So we do our math. Sirius is not rising. Spica is not rising. So no major star parons for Einstein. This suggests his genius came from planetary configurations, Sun-Uranus conjunction, rather than fixed stars. But we may have missed a culminating paron of a second mag star. Further calculation would be needed. This negative result is itself informative. Not every great figure has star parons. And our third step is paron interpretation. Einstein's lack of fixed star parons at angles indicates a self-made, non-archetypal brilliance. The stars were not acting through him. His chart relies purely on planetary dynamics. Alright, in our last chapter here, I want to go over limitations in future research, proper motion of stars. So stars drift slowly, around 0.1 to 1 per year. For ancient charts, for example, 2,000 years ago, the difference in RA can be several degrees, invalidating modern epoch parons. Use precise coordinates for historical figures. For example, Julius Caesar's chart requires epoch -45. For 20th, 21st century charts, proper motion is negligible except for Bernard's star, 10-year, but that star is too faint for paron work. We have the problem of parallax. Fixed stars are so distant that parallax, apparent shift due to Earth's orbit, is lesser than 0.01, irrelevant. Planets exhibit parallax of up to 1 degree for the moon, but planets are not fixed. Their paron calculations must use topocentric, observer-specific coordinates, not geocentric. Most software incorrectly uses geocentric for planets and parons. The rigorous work requires topocentric RA-DEC for the moon and nearby planets, Venus, Mars, to within 1 accuracy. Alright. In our suggested research protocols, empirical tests, we collect 1,000 birth charts with known life events, compute all parons of first magnitude stars to angles, test correlation against event types, for example, algal paron with head injury, and use chi-square. Software development, an open source paron module that uses topocentric coordinates, proper motion, and refraction correction for rising stars near the horizon. And historical reconstruction, where we translate the paron of Talonta of Tusar of Babylon, 1st century CE, into modern RA-DEC for the epoch 100, then precessed to any birth year, right? And we conclude here, parons are not an obscure curiosity. They are the original method by which Hellenistic astrologers integrated fixed stars into horoscopic practice, a method later replaced by the easier but conceptually weaker ecliptic conjunction. The rigorous application of parons requires the astrologer to master 3 coordinate systems: equatorial, horizontal, ecliptic, and the respective native geographic coordinates as active variables, not passive labels. For the advanced practitioner, parons offer a level of precision and specificity unavailable from planets alone. A planet's nature is generic, a fixed star's mythology is specific. When they meet on the horizon or meridian, the generic becomes the particular. That is the power of the paron, and the reason this treatise calls every serious astrologer to recalculate their charts in 3 dimensions. In my next video, We are going to talk about the astrology of alternative musicians and bands, essentially a collection of natal chart case studies in regards to music. And I hope to see you there with peace and love. Piscean out.